The darkness has a texture. It is thick, woven from years of silence, and the slow, patient settling of dust. I feel it not as an absence of light, but as a presence, a heavy blanket pressed against my frayed seams. My skin, once a delicate pink, taut and smooth over the arch of a foot, is now a geography of cracks and stains. The silk of my ribbons has grown brittle, their ends lost somewhere in this cramped eternity. I am pressed against my twin, a mirror image of my own decay, though her suffering is less visible. Mine is a wound, a split down the soul, a violent tear that speaks of a single, catastrophic moment. We have not been separated since we were placed here, in this cardboard tomb, in the back of a cedar-lined closet that no longer smells of cedar, but of mothballs and forgotten things. The world outside is a symphony of muffled sounds, the groan of the house settling into its foundation, a sound I have come to know intimately, the distant rhythmic thud of a bass line from a car passing on the street, a vibration that travels through the floorboards and into my very being. Sometimes I hear her footsteps, heavier now, slower. They lack the impossible lightness they once had. They are the footsteps of someone bound to the earth, no longer aspiring to defy it. There is no music from her room anymore, only the low hum of a television or the murmur of a voice on the phone, flat and devoid of passion. I remember other sounds, the soaring strings of Tchaikovsky, the sharp, authoritative clap of a ballet master's hands, the whisper of dozens of bodies moving in unison, a forest of limbs swaying to a silent, internal rhythm, and her voice, a breathless hum of concentration as she prepared me, her ritual sacred and unchanging, the careful dusting of rosin, the precise, practiced knot of my ribbons around her ankle, a bond of trust. I was not an object then. I was a promise, an extension of her will, a vessel for her ambition. Now I am just a thing in a box, listening to the slow, steady rhythm of forgetting. A single, sharp creak from the hallway floorboards slices through the quiet. It is a sound of pressure, of wood giving way, and it is enough. The darkness of the box dissolves. The creak becomes a different sound, a sickening tear. But before that, there was light, blinding, hot, theatrical light. The world was a vast, dark ocean, and we were on a small island of polished wood, the stage. The air was electric, thick with the scent of sweat, hairspray, and the collective held breath of 1,000 unseen people. I was alive. I was more than alive. I was part of a flight. On her foot, I was weightless. The floor was not a surface to be walked upon, but a springboard from which to launch. We knew every inch of that stage, every subtle dip and worn patch. We had bled on it, cried on it, triumphed on it. It was our universe. Higher, Elara, reach. The voice of her instructor, a ghost from the wings, a constant echo in her mind. The music is lifting you. Don't fight it. She never fought it. She surrendered to it. Her body was an instrument, and I was the point of contact, the delicate tip of the artist's brush. I remember the rehearsals, the endless hours of repetition, until perfection was not a goal, but a reflex. The burning in her muscles, the raw skin on her toes, the quiet determination in her eyes, reflected in the studio mirror. She would look at her reflection, but she wasn't looking at herself. She was looking at the lines, the form, the idea of a dancer she was striving to become. Other girls watched with a mixture of awe and envy. Their whispers were like static in the corners of the room. She's a natural. She has it. The company will build the next season around her. She heard them, but she didn't listen. The only voice that mattered was the music and the demanding ghost in the wings. Then there was the warmth of being held in her hands after a performance, the gentle untying of my ribbons, her fingers tracing my seams as if checking for injuries. She would care for me, clean me, prepare me for the next day, the next flight. I was her partner. In those moments, the silence was different. It was not the empty silence of this box. It was a silence filled with accomplishment, with the pleasant ache of exhaustion, with the quiet hum of a dream unfolding exactly as it should. That night was different. It was not a rehearsal. It was the premiere, the culmination of everything. The air was denser, the silence from the audience more profound. The music seemed to swell, not from the orchestra pit, but from the very floorboards beneath us. She was not just dancing, she was incandescent. Every movement was sharper, every leap higher, every line more perfect than ever before. I felt the power surging through her, a current of pure, unadulterated passion. It was the performance of a lifetime, the final act, the grand jeté. It was a leap she had practiced 1,000 times, a flight across the stage that was meant to be her signature, her ascension. I remember the preparation, the deep plie, the coiling of energy in her legs. I remember leaving the floor. For a moment, we hung in the air, suspended in light and sound, a perfect, impossible silhouette against the blackness. It was absolute freedom, a moment of godhood. And then, gravity remembered us. The landing. It was meant to be silent, a whisper of satin on wood. But the angle was wrong. A fraction of a degree, a microsecond of miscalculation, born from ambition, from reaching just an inch too high. Instead of the familiar, solid embrace of the floor, there was a sickening shift. I felt the bone in her ankle give way before she did. It was not a loud crack that echoed through the theater. It was an intimate, internal sound. A wet, tearing noise, felt more than heard. The fabric of my soul, unable to withstand the unnatural torque, ripped open. My wound was born in the same instant as hers. She fell, the grace shattered, the perfect line broken. She landed in a heap of tulle and broken dreams. The music faltered, then stopped. A single, horrified gasp rippled through the audience, a wave of collective shock. But the most terrible sound was the silence that followed, a vast, echoing void where applause should have been. On the floor, under the hot lights, she didn't scream. She just looked down at her foot, at me, at the unnatural angle of her ankle, and a look of quiet, devastating understanding washed over her face. It was not the look of pain. It was the look of someone watching their own soul leave their body. The dream was over, and in that moment, my purpose ended. The memory fades, the stage lights recede. I am back in the dark, pressed against my silent twin, the ghost of the music, a faint ringing in the void. My existence is now measured in the spaces between her footsteps. My purpose was not to fly forever. It was to be the witness to a single, terrible landing, to absorb the shock of a future collapsing. I was an instrument of her ascent, and I became the artifact of her fall. For a long time, I waited. I believed she would come back for me, perhaps to mend me, to keep me as a memento of what she had been. But she never did. To look at me is to look at the moment it all ended. It is easier to put the past in a box and hide it in the dark. I am a ballet slipper, or what is left of one, the left one. to be precise, torn at the soul where the promise gave way. My ribbons are still tied in the knot she made that final night, a knot of hope that became a knot of finality. I am a relic of a religion she no longer practices. Humans build their lives on dreams, these delicate structures of hope and effort. They believe they are architects of their own ascent, that with enough will they can touch the sky. But they forget about gravity. Gravity is patient. It is the universe's final, silent correction, a constant reminder that every flight, no matter how beautiful, must eventually end. Some landings are gentle, others are a reckoning. I hold the echo of a leap that broke more than an ankle. I hold the echo and the silence that followed.